Okay, so it looks like we have most people in the webinar. So first of all, thank you for everyone joining us today. My name is Zach. I'll be hosting this webinar. I'm joined by our special guest, Dayton, who is one of our previous students who's going to talk about his experience. And I'm also joined by one of our senior career consultants, Jake, who's going to help us out a little bit later in the webinar. So if you do have any questions, we've had a lot of questions come through before the webinar started. If you do have questions throughout the webinar, please put them in the Q&A section at the bottom. And if we've got as much time, we will try and answer as many questions as we can. Normally, we try and get to as many as possible, but if we do miss yours, apologies, we'll try and get to them as we can. And Jake will probably be the best man to answer them for us, so he'll come on a little bit later. So just before I do hand over to Dayton to talk about his experience, let me just let you know this webinar is recorded, just so everyone knows who's jumping in here now. And I will let you know, first of all, a little bit more about what we do here at the Learning People, and what we strive to do. And obviously Dayton can talk about his experience as well. So here at the Learning People, we've been offering online learning for about 12 years now. I am responsible, so I head up the IT department here. We've had about 45,000 students study with us all around the world. This webinar is being hosted from our Brighton office. We have another office in Dublin. We've got another office in Sydney, Australia, and another one down in Queenstown in New Zealand. So we have had students all around the world. And where we specialize in really is our career changers. So people who might not have academic background within IT in particular, or they might not have professional qualifications in IT, but are looking to have a career and pursue a career in that area. What we look to do is offer them globally recognized qualifications. We give them all the support that they could need, and then help them find their dream roles and transition into the industry. That all starts off, first of all, talking to our consultants like Jake, where we can work out exactly what someone's background is, what they're interested in doing, why they want to make a career change, what if they have any particular skills, or what might be the best area for them, and certainly which will be the best qualifications for them to sit, is where Jake can then give that best advice to help them start on their career journey. So without any further ado, I'll introduce Dayton. If you'd like to say hello to everybody. What we're going to do is run Dayton through some questions, talking about his background. Dayton, can you just let everybody know what you were doing before you started studying IT and why you wanted a career change?
Yeah, sure. So before I started IT, I was a bus driver for 4 years. Prior to that, I was in the police for 8 years. So after I left the police, I did like random work. So I used to do events as well. So it was literally going to venues, helping set up for events. I got to a point when I was driving buses that I started to question whether I wanted to do it for the rest of my life, and the answer was no, it wasn't. So I started looking into what I wanted, what interested me. Then I started thinking about getting into IT, specifically cybersecurity, and then I thought, oh, it may be too late. I would have to go back to uni and all that stuff I didn't want to do. And that's when I started doing some research, and I came across Learning People, and I spoke to a few people online about it, and they said they had a good experience with them. So I made a call. I was a bit I wasn't in the not sure, I was still in the not quite sure, because, there are other providers that there've been quite bad experiences with other providers from people I've spoken to and stuff. So when I called and spoke to the consultant, it was quite a detailed conversation. It lasted just over an hour. When I've spoken to previous providers, it lasted like a few minutes, and they were actually pressuring me to sign up, which just set alarm bells for me. So when I spoke to the consultant at Learning People, it lasted an hour, and it gave me a time to think about it and process it. And I just made my decision that I was going to go with Learning People, and I haven't looked back since then, really.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point, actually, especially with online learning. Sometimes it's really hard to know what you're paying for. and you don't know what you're going to get. And if you're looking across all different providers, it can all look very, very similar. And unfortunately, we do hear that a lot, that people, in fact, we enroll a lot of students that have already paid for courses through different online learning providers. And this isn't to talk poorly about providers, not what we're here to do, but they just don't get the support that they were originally promised, or it's a newly founded online learning provider. Like after COVID-19, there's a lot of online learning providers trying to pop up, or that were doing classroom learning before that just think they can do online, and it's not the same thing. So we do hear that a lot. And when you say that you changed your careers, that's quite a jump from being in the police to then driving. What was it about IT in particular that took your interest?
Mainly just learn and grow. I just found that with IT, I wanted a career where I'm constantly learning new things and growing. And looking at where we are in the world now and how reliant we are on technology, it's only going to get even bigger as we move into the future. And I thought, like, I was just thought that this is the career for me, because I want to be in a position where I'm learning and growing daily, monthly, yearly, and also helping people who are not exactly tech savvy as well. So the career in IT is it's just so wide. I mean, from learning my courses and doing my certifications, I thought when I first started, it was I want to get into cybersecurity, but when I've learned certain subjects within the CompTIA A+, Network Plus, my interests have sort of gone. It started here, but now it's just spread out. So I'm interested in certain areas now. So it's just broadened my horizon a bit more. So now I'm just like, maybe I want to do a bit of networking, or maybe doing some stuff with cloud. But yeah, that's sort of the reason why I wanted to get into IT the most, really, just to learn and grow.
Yeah, and we do hear that a lot. A lot of people, especially we have people a lot of the time who might be in the midway through their careers. They could be in their 40s and they haven't studied for a long time, or they haven't done a university degree, for example, and they think, I do want to take on some new learning and use that learning. And I think that with the way that technology is consistently developing, like you're talking about cloud already, all the time all we hear about is cloud now, and cybersecurity is obviously a big buzzword that everyone likes to hear and talk about. But absolutely, I think that it's one of the great things about IT. There's always something more that you can learn, and there's no way that you could think, oh, I'm going to work in this industry and just have one set path to get you there. A lot of people take a different pathway and take on different learning to get them to that same journey. I think that's one of the great things about IT. So can you talk to us a little bit about career services? Because I know it was obviously quite a jump for you to change to move into an IT role. For those who might not know, we have a career services team which is dedicated to support anyone who's sitting their qualifications, try and find that new position. We were actually talking. It was just earlier this week. I was talking in one of our management meetings that we have. It's now, so the career service have a 3-phase career process. I'm not sure if you remember this, Dayton, where you have your phase 1, your phase 2, and your phase 3, different phases. And it's now 98% of all of our students who've finished those 3 phases are now working with their desired role with their qualifications, which I think is fantastic. Can you talk to us a little bit about your experience with the career services team? I think you're working with Marisha, if that's right, or can you let us know a bit more your experience with the career services team and what they did for you?
Yeah, I think I've got it was a bit choppy, but I think I understand. I think I've got the question now. So my experience with career service was brilliant. I mean, when I first enrolled, I was in contact with them straight away, and the first few things I was told that I should, set up my LinkedIn and my CV. That I forget her name. She sent me I think her name is Marisha.
Marisha, yeah.
She sent me some stuff that I can look at and how to improve my LinkedIn and CV, because I had never done a LinkedIn, and my CV, I hadn't done my CV. I hadn't felt the need to do a CV because of the careers I had. So when I set up my LinkedIn and my CV, it was good because she helped me make how to make my LinkedIn profile, my CV stand out, such as putting in keywords or just making it more approachable So when someone looks at my LinkedIn profile or my CV, they would look at it and see what skills I have and what transferable skills I have as well, because obviously I came with like no IT experience whatsoever, and she helped me realize that even though I don't have those, I have transferable skills such as, you know, working in a team, being a good communicator, being reliable, and being determined. Also, when it came to job interviews, actually, one of my first interviews actually came as a result of my LinkedIn profile. She helps me prepare for that. So the best thing is like when someone approaches you, research the company, find out what the company does. Also looking at what the company values and how you can integrate that into your interview. So it's basically just like looking for the keywords that they will see that, like, okay, he knows about the company, he's done his research. And also we got a chance to go over some questions that may pop up in an interview scenario as well, and find out what's the best way to answer it, which I felt it gave me the confidence, because I'd been out of interviews for years, and going into an IT career as well, I have not been in sort of like a corporate sort of background before, so it was all completely new to me. And once I started learning it, I felt more relaxed. And that's when it was after, I think it was like I had 2 interviews, and on my 3rd one, that's when I was offered the job. So I think the first 2 were put down to experience and a bit of nerves that played a part, but you know, that happens, you know. And I you know, when I got my first job, I was extremely happy. And you know, I've got nothing but thanks for Career Services and Marisha as well. So yeah, it's a great service, you know. It's helped me a lot as well. So they're always, if you ever need anything, they're always there to help you.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the big things, especially for our career changes, is not being in an interview format in a similar way before. Like, what do you expect? You know, if you don't know anyone who works in an industry similar to that, you haven't been asked those questions before, you know, a lot of the times it can feel intimidating. And to have somebody just explain the process to you. And I think it is a really good point about researching the company, so that you can make sure that you're aligning to what they're looking for. You know, but it does also show that you've taken that time, you are a serious candidate, but you can also make sure that that company is right for you. You know, IT is such a fast growing industry. You know, if you get the right qualifications, there is a huge amount of positions available for people. That's one of the big reasons why people want to move to IT, is for that job security. And you don't just want to take any job. You know, you want to make sure that position is going to be the best position for you, because what you're interested in doing and why you want to make that career change. So researching a business is going to make sure that it is a two-way street. Can you talk to us? A question has come through, and a lot of people ask this. Can you talk to us a bit more about your actual job role, like a day in the life of what you're looking to do? Like, being an IT technician, what have you found that might be challenging for you in your job role, or, you know, what do you particularly enjoy about your job role? It might help shed some light for people who want to move into a similar position.
Yeah, so at the moment, I'm a first-line support technician for a digital medical company. So we deal with, so they provide a software service that sends out messages to remind people about their appointments, so for GP practices. And my day, normally, majority of the time, I'm answering calls, logging tickets, and investigating issues, and also escalating more complex issues to the 2nd and 3rd line team. So daily, it can range from someone being locked out of their account, someone being unable to access the software. So it'll be resetting accounts, or network issues, or investigating why a message hasn't been sent. It can be quite diverse in relation to the sort of calls you get. At the moment, before I went on lunch, we were dealing with cloud as well. We're having a lot of issues with the cloud at the moment. So again, it can be very, very diverse. That's what I enjoy most about this job. It's just, you never know what kind of call you're gonna get. And luckily the team I work with, they're very supportive in relation to if I have any sort of issues. They're always there to help me and talk me through what I need to do. Sometimes because of the data as well, it's stored on a database that you've got to go into that database and put SQL commands in there, which I'm not too great on. So that's why I normally just ask someone to show me what I need to put in. I think the toughest part of it is probably because my role is remote and this is like my first IT job, so it has been difficult for me to learn everything. But I've learned I've surprised myself how much I've been able to learn whilst been working remotely. I would say that's probably been the toughest part of it, but apart from that bit, all the rest I think it's just been a positive, and it's been such an eye-opener. It's given me that foundation and understanding, and especially with my certifications as well, I've been able to put what I've learned into practice, especially when it came to certain issues. If I couldn't, how would I find the IP address of a network? I knew how to do that. I knew how to get onto the command line and find it and distinguish which IP address I need and stuff. So from that sort of aspect, it's been a very, very good experience for me personally. What I've said it's been a life-changing experience for me.
Yeah, great. And just one more question, if you don't mind, before, because I think some questions have come through for Jake. What would your advice be for someone who's looking to make a career change into IT?
I'll say I don't know everyone's circumstances, but if you've got nothing to lose by trying, I know it can be difficult when you're in that position. It's kind of like you're on a seesaw and you're judging, oh, should I do it? What about if this happens? What about if that happens? Well, what about if it does go your way? What about if you do go down that route and you pass your certifications, you're in an IT job? I mean, I'll say, if you're determined and you're willing to put the work in, because, when I was studying it, there were certain times when I felt like I can't do this. I just can't do it. It's just too hard. But, I had the support from learning to people, and the tutors as well have been great. And if you got that, if you really want it, if you really want to make a change, I'll just say, just go for it. Go for it. You got nothing to lose by trying, that would be my advice, really. Just if you're really hungry for it, just go for it.
And that's good advice, because I think the people that we talk to a lot of the time, they do want the same opportunity, but sometimes people do just need that little extra step. And nothing is a guarantee in life. You can't just guarantee that you enroll in some courses and you get the outcome. You do need to put in the work, and it's not always going to be easy. But at least what we definitely do try and do here with Learning People is make sure that people have all of the appropriate levels of support they could have. We can't do the learning for people, absolutely not. But if you do the learning and you commit to the learning, we can give people study planners. You've got your student care, you've got the tutoring support that you've just mentioned, and then you've got the career services team. On a lot of our course collections, we pay for unlimited exam resits for people as well. So if they did fail any of their exams, we can just rebook it for them once they've done the coursework. We do try and put everything in its best possible position to make sure people are in the best position to then make that career change. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of success doing so over the last 15 or 14 years now. Jake, Dayton, I might quickly pass back to you if we have time just before the end, but just so I can get a couple of questions through for Jake, if you don't mind, because some have come through. There's one here, the first one that came through before the webinar started, Jake, is, are there any positions in cybersecurity or in tech in general that you think are the most in demand with employers? Like, what do you think the most in demand job roles are at the moment?
Yeah, so, I mean, probably cloud and cyber are the two kind of biggest growth areas that we see at the moment. They're the most in demand. Within those two fields, there is crossover as well, but I'd say like kind of cybersecurity analytics is always a really good place to start when you're going into cybersecurity. Cloud administrator is kind of where you might look on the cloud side of things. Cloud engineer as well. Now, cloud engineer is a funny one because it's kind of a catch-all term for a few different job roles, and sometimes you may see a cloud engineer job advertised which has a completely different job description to another one. So there is a bit of a kind of a gray area there, but yeah, I would say kind of cloud admin, cybersecurity analyst or SOC analyst, those kind of roles in those two fields. And obviously IT support like Dayton is one of the most common routes into not just kind of second, third line IT support, but also networking, moving up into cloud. As Dayton mentioned, he worked with cloud even in his current role. So IT support is always a fantastic kind of place to start.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, as Dayton was saying before, you don't just stick to one path and you can never go somewhere else. Jake was just saying as well, there is a lot of crossover between some different positions. A cloud engineer could have a huge varied range of responsibilities, as Jake was saying, and that could have security elements in there as well. You could have a cloud engineer who's qualified with the Security Plus, which Dayton, obviously, about. Or you could have people qualified to work with cloud development, just because the more qualifications you have, the better footprint that you'll have and the more employable that you'll be. And just because you've got some qualifications doesn't mean that you can't then work in different job roles as well. But absolutely, I think if you do any kind of research into which are the big demand areas in IT, the big areas you're going to see is cloud development, and cybersecurity has been a big in-demand area for a number of years now. Another one that came through before, Jake, if you don't mind, is what's the best way to increase your chances of getting into the industry? I presume that that was from Gina. I presume she's talking about IT in general.
In general, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the best place to start is training, right? Is getting yourself upskilled, making sure that you have the appropriate qualifications. It is an industry that's driven by what you know and what you can prove that you know. And obviously, you may have kind of spent time in your room tinkering and learning, and unless you can prove that in an interview, it's very hard to get into a job role. So even for kind of entry-level IT support, they're going to want to see that when you join the company, that you're going to be able to do the job with as little on the job training as possible. Obviously, there will be an element of that, but they want to know that what they're investing in, which is you as a professional, is going to give them the best reward. And that's certifications. You literally have the piece of paper telling the employer, this is what I can do, and it demonstrates without any shadow of a doubt what you can do. So that would be it. And then, yeah, I think obviously from there you move up with experience and continue to certify in different areas that interest you. And that's how you can kind of shape your career moving forward.
Thank you. Another one that came through from Demi, I think I pronounced it correctly, is which method of IT studying is more practical, university or online certifications? That might be another way. That might be, how do professional qualifications weigh up against academic learning, like a degree?
So do you mean more like a traditional learning versus kind of online learning?
Well, I don't think specifically online, but I think professional qualifications, like getting certified through CompTIA,
sure,
for example.
Okay, yeah. So I mean, CompTIA, some jobs, when you look at them, and Dayton, you might remember this when you were looking online at different job requirements, they'll actually ask for specific qualifications quite a lot of the time. And that varies depending on what the job is. The reason that they're very in demand is because when you're learning at university, obviously it's a lot of kind of general learning. So say if you're doing like a cybersecurity degree, you're not focusing specifically on one job that you're going to then go in and do. What's so good about a professional certification is that you get the theory, but you also learn the practical element. So you'll actually have experience working through practice labs that gives you tangible experience that you can then talk about in your job interviews. So rather than leaving with kind of no practical knowledge, and obviously that varies from degree to degree, but the majority, you won't leave with a huge amount of on-the-job training. Now, the good thing about professional qualifications in terms of certifications is that you will leave with that practical element to your studies.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that to elaborate a little bit where you started off from speaking from experience, is that a degree, we talk about the vague level of education you have. Someone does an IT degree, you could do a little bit of programming on your first degree, you could do a little bit of software testing, in the second half of your degree, you might learn about planning threat engagement, which, Dayton will probably know much more about than I do now, but you could do that in your first year, for example, and you do a 4-year degree, and the education that you've learned in your first year is no longer really looked for by the time you actually try and find a job. And not only that, because you've got such a broad element of skills, you're not really that competent in anything. You have a broad level of skills where, as a user and an individual, you have a good level of understanding. But like Jake was saying, professional qualifications, particularly through CompTIA, are specific for a job role. They certify you to go out there and find a specific position where an employer then knows that you're the right candidate for that role. So I think you're exactly right with that, Jake. There's one more question here that came through before we started, which is, what is the biggest career change? Personally, I suppose this might be a good one particularly for you, Jake, just to ask you personally. What's the biggest career change into cybersecurity you've seen someone take in your experience, mate?
In one of my students, do you mean?
Yeah, well, I think it's just asking in general. So yeah, ask it to you, sure.
Yeah. I think there's one in particular, 3 or 4 years ago, came from kind of bar work, pulling pints, that sort of thing. Was just, there's no progression past, like, obviously you can become a manager and that sort of thing, but you're working nights, you never have your weekends, and they were just they were not happy with that. The key was kind of progression though. So they studied with us for about just under 12 months. Similar actually to Dayton. You did cybersecurity originally, right, Dayton?
What, the course? Sorry.
Did you completed the Security Plus? Is that right?
Oh no, I'm currently working on it.
You're currently doing the Security Plus, right? Yeah. So yeah, they did the same A plus Network Plus Security Plus, and then they went on to the Cybersecurity Analyst Plus. And then, yeah, we got them into a role. The first role was like a SOC analyst, like junior SOC analyst. And I think that, to me, because they had no experience whatsoever when they first came to us, and similar issues like you found, Dayton, where they were struggling with the kind of back and forth of what if. Having no background doesn't necessarily mean that you're not going to be really successful. And you said it yourself, it's about what you put in. And if you put the effort in, if you work hard, then anyone can do this. And obviously that's the key. But yeah, I think kind of barman to cybersecurity analyst would be what springs to mind in terms of one of the biggest career changes I've seen.
Thank you. Yeah, and I remember, if you look, everyone looks back to our different previous webinars. We've had a student, Kyle. He was working in Sainsbury's manager, and he transferred, and he straight away with his experience, he actually landed a job role as a SOC level 2, which is a security operations center level 2 engineer, basically. And he was managing a local Sainsbury's on the corner. Never thought he could work in IT. Sat some qualifications. He did put in a lot of work. I know he did a lot of extra learning through ourselves, but did some just some Python learning and got some penetration testing in particular he was studying. And he moved into a SOC level 2 role from working in retail. I would say the vast majority of our students, I would be making up the statistics, but the vast majority of our students come from people who work in retail, work in hospitality. Like Dayton was saying, they think that they've got no previous experience that could be relevant to work in IT. Where they think that everyone in IT is, super introverted and they game downstairs in a basement, like we see in the movies. But we need people to manage teams. You need people to communicate with each other. You need support. You need good communication skills. There's a huge amount of skills that people have coming from varied backgrounds that are now particularly the most in-demand skills in IT because there's a shortage of them. And I think, Dayton, you were talking about that a little bit earlier in the webinar yourself. So look, guys, we might be coming up, excuse me, we are coming up to 1 o'clock here now. So we are coming up to the end of the webinar. So I'd like to thank everybody for joining us. If you have, I can see there's a lot more questions, particularly about which certificates to sit. I can see there's questions in there that we haven't been able to get to. We can answer all of those questions for you very easily. What I would suggest that you do is you leave your details. It's very easy to the website, and you'll need to have a consultation with one of the career consultants, and they'll be able to work out specifically which are the best courses for you. A lot of the questions are asking, which are the best ones for a career change. Again, it depends on Are you heavily motivated by earning potential, flexibility, like working from home, like Dayton is doing? Do you want to travel abroad? And the consultants will be able to give you specifically the best recommendation once they've had, half an hour to an hour on the phone with you, and make sure we can get you on the best career journey for you. So again, thank you everyone for joining. Dayton in particular, thanks for coming on with us today. Best of luck with with everything else that you're doing. I know you're still continuing your learning, and leave your details through our website at learningpeople.co.uk. Feel free to add myself on LinkedIn, or my name is Zachary, Zachary, and my surname is Lowndes, Lownds. So I hope that we can all help everybody. Thanks again for coming on, Dayton, and everybody joining the webinar. Thanks a lot.
Take care, everyone. Good luck.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.